Join us at Women of Courage and celebrate the achievements of women. Good afternoon, and thank you for tuning in. This is Gloria Lee, the moderator for the show Women of Courage. Wherever you are in the world, I need you to know one thing right now. You are amazing. I know you might be upset. I know you might be hurting. And I know you might be frustrated. I know because all of these things happened to me. I was homeless for 2 years, and all I had was a computer, my son, and a car. I want you to know you still have a purpose in life, and it is my job to help you believe that again. Do you want to believe? Can you see that the divorce was not meant to take you out? Can you believe that the lost house and the lost job is a setup for something greater? By the end of this broadcast, you'll be injected with so much that you cannot help but believe again. And I am going to help you do just that. Are you ready? I got some things I want to share with you. And I will even make suggestions on books and activities that you can implement, which will ultimately bring healing and wholeness to you. If you are ready to be healed, if you're ready to be whole, just jot down the pointers I give and watch your life transform. No matter what happened, no matter whose fault it was, today is a new day, and your time to live and be free is now. Join me in this journey to wholeness. Your time for total healing is now. Today you shall recover. Wholeness, healness, and peacefulness is in the mind. That is where all battles for life end and begin. We are now beginning a new year. It is January 2019. Since the year is new, why should we not be new? Let us see what can happen in 2019 if we decide to become a new person. Most people make New Year's resolutions, but by the time March arrives, all is forgotten. Let us see if we can break this pattern. Let us become new again. Change makes anything possible. If we can change the way we think, we can change the way we respond to others, and we can change the way we respond to ourselves. Now, say to yourself, I'm going to become a person I want to be. I'm going to do what is necessary to make me happy. I am going to change because change makes anything possible. I will no longer be the person that I've always been. Remember Pastor T.D. Jakes' quote in 1996? If you do what you have always done, you will always be what you've always been. Consequently, if you do not want to be the person you have always been, then you must change. You must dare. You must dare to dream. Dare to dream, then stand up and live. Think about it. You are the only person standing in your way of realizing a new future for you and your family. If you resign yourself to being nondescript, then that is exactly what you will be all your life. And you will pass this behavior on to your children. So you must dare to dream and cast off limits that you, your parents, your teachers, and society has placed on you. Your parents evaluated you based on their failures and their successes and their prejudice. Society evaluated you based on your physical body and the money you possess. If you have no money, you're worthless to be avoided and discarded. So now I'm telling you to ignore what society has to say and ignore what your parents had to say if your parents said things that made you feel worthless. You have one question to ask yourself in determining your destiny, and that question is, what am I capable of doing? If you answer yourself, I can do whatever I choose to do, You will succeed in life and life will be good to you. If you answer yourself, maybe I have a chance at winning, your life will be a roller coaster with no end in sight. Do not live your life where you will die on your knees. Dare to dream and then stand up. When trying to rise from poverty, you have two systems to fight against. The first system is ignorance, the second is sexual sin. Be determined not to let either defeat you. Everywhere you look, there will be women selling their bodies. The world system will be beckoning you, telling you, come join us. Do neither. Shun the immediate gratification of sexual sin and choose to live. Go to the library, learn to read, and read so you can overcome ignorance. Next, I'm going to read to you excerpts from the book The Wall, page 313, and excerpts from the book Murder in the Family, Part 1, page 48. This is regarding sins against the body. We do not have time to waste. I am going to discuss the areas that cause the greatest conflict for people: sex, fornication, and adultery. These are the subjects that prevent people from changing. You are the woman who keeps having relationships with married men, and every holiday you are alone. You are the woman that's dating a married man, plotting how to get him to leave his wife. You are the woman in love with your best girlfriend's husband. You hate your best girlfriend and you want to take her husband away from her so you can get even with her being a better woman than you. You have been stewing in your hatred for years, but you don't think nobody knows. We hope these excerpts will deepen your appreciation of the problem that lies before you. These are the sins that usually defeat women in their quest to live a better life. The excerpts are entitled The Motherless Child and the Husband's Dilemma. Please listen closely. And if you have time, email us and we will send you the audio of this show so you can listen to the broadcast again. It should be helpful to you. And you can share this broadcast with others. You can also listen to any rebroadcast of our show at Touched by the Light Publishing on YouTube. Now to the motherless child. If you are a woman committing adultery, you really should change your behavior. This is not the behavior for you. As a woman, you must lead your life with character and integrity. Your children expect this from you. If you behave in any other way, you may cause your children a great deal of stress, which may lead your children to act destructively. The only time one should wager everything they have is when the wager is to save his or her life or the life of their child. Adultery is an all or nothing proposition, yet most people do not see adultery this way. People see adultery as recreation, a time out, an activity that no one will know about. Actually, adultery is an inextricable maze. Sometimes you cannot extricate yourself. Usually, adultery ends in nothingness. The pathway of adultery is blackmail, fear, then death. What do you think you are going to do if your boyfriend decides to tell your husband of your affair or threatens to tell your colleagues of your affair? Sin continues until the sin ends in death. Let your husband be the offender. If your girlfriend has suggested you should participate in this behavior because of the conduct of your husband, find another best friend. You are in control of the sin you commit in your life, not your husband and not your best girlfriend. You cannot blame your conduct on the fact that your husband committed adultery. He commits adultery, now you're going to commit adultery. That's stupid. You must understand, when you enter into a relationship with another person, you cannot control the behavior of that person. The only behavior absolutely under your control is you. And that is only if you are self-disciplined, self-focused, and rock hard. What do you think will happen when you want to break off the relationship and your lover does not want to end the affair? What happens when he says, if you try and stop seeing me, I'll make you pay? What will happen when he turns nasty and begins to demand that you meet him when and wherever he says? How are you going to manage your home under this stress? Adultery is not worth it. Adultery is not what it's cracked up to be. Adultery is a seven-headed hydra offering seven opportunities for murder. Let me say this again. Adultery is a seven-headed hydra offering seven opportunities for murder. The heads of the hydra represents the possibilities available to the participants in the triangle. The husband will kill his wife, Maria Marshall, or the husband will kill his girlfriend, Tammy Lohr, or the husband will murder his wife and his girlfriend, Miss Causley in Texas. The husband and his girlfriend will kill the wife, Barbara Jean Finch and Julie Sabinto. The girlfriend acting alone will kill the wife, Martha Gale Fulton, Michigan, or the wife murders the husband, Donnie Larry, or the wife kills the girlfriend, Rita Lassiter, 21, or Carmen Varga, 26. Names I just quoted were women that were murdered after adultery. The end result of adultery is destruction, and if you are a woman, you cannot participate in this behavior. The reason for not committing adultery has nothing to do with your salvation. The reason is that your children may be left motherless. There was a woman who committed adultery. She decided the answer to her problem was the murder of her husband. She and her boyfriend murdered the husband. The treachery was discovered and both were convicted and sentenced to life in prison. The woman's 6 children were left motherless. Another woman decided she wanted her husband to die so she could enjoy the proceeds from his insurance policies. She committed adultery, then conned her boyfriend into murdering her husband. After the deed was done, she believed herself safe from detection. She stopped seeing her boyfriend and went on a shopping spree. What she did not count on was her boyfriend's conscience. Her boyfriend committed suicide and left information to his and her guilt. The woman was convicted and sentenced to life in prison without parole. Her 3 children were left motherless. When God says, "Thou shalt not commit adultery," there is a reason behind this commandment. The commandment is not made arbitrarily. Adultery is a sin, and sin leads to more sin until finally you and your family are consumed by this sin. As a parent, you have a responsibility that you cannot abdicate. You must act in defense of your children. You cannot take a chance on the destiny of your children's lives because of your thoughts that you could refuse to bring under control. You commit adultery for a 5-minute thrill. Responsibility is a fact of life. Any risk behavior that you participate in that threatens the well-being of your family should be avoided. A motherless child is a wretched soul. The child is without his or her natural protector. The child is without the person responsible for stabilizing his or her life. Motherless children are many of the victims consumed by the pornography and prostitution industry in this country. That's what I'm saying to you. If you commit the sin and cause your child to become motherless, then you are responsible for them becoming a prostitute. In 1998, 300 victims were forced into prostitution in the United States. A large percentage of these victims were motherless children. Motherless children are a continuous source of victims for philandering husbands, pimps, and sex offenders. I want you to remember this name. Doris Ann McLeod was 17 years old when she was tortured and murdered in the basement of a home in Wisconsin. She was killed because a man who picked her up from a group home demanded that she prostitute for him. When she refused, he struck her in the chest more than 17 times for her disobedience. Her assailant was following the instructions from a manual of how to keep women in line. when women refuse to do what they're told. Sidney Sosa died in a house fire August 5th, 1987. She died because she was a runaway from a group home and she sought shelter in a dope house. Three men angry with the dope dealer set the house on fire. Ms. Souza was the only person to die. The men who committed this crime are now out of prison on parole. Sidney Sosa is still dead. Every year, hundreds of children are seduced from group homes by sexual predators or men looking for children who they can sell for sex. Who do you think makes up the supply of bodies being buried throughout this country as Jane Does? Don't you care? When a child runs away from a group home, no one saddles up and goes looking for that child. That child is lost to society. One such child was Amber Creek. She died in Chicago, Illinois. You have no right to spread your legs for a 5-minute thrill and jeopardize the life of your child. What are you thinking? Are you such a fool that you cannot see the handwriting on the wall? I am going to pause for a second to take a short break while you listen to information regarding willpower and encouragement. It is all a matter of learning new behaviors. And please remember, it is easier to build strong minds than to repair injured people. What I said is a modification of a quote by Frederick Douglass. He said, it is easier to build strong children than to repair broken men. Now for my break.
Reverend Dennis Graham, and we've got an interesting program going on here. We're training returning citizens and low income how to do industrial aerospace welding. And we're looking for more people to come in, and we're looking for investors, anybody that wants to sponsor. And we're offering this to the low income and the returning citizens for free so that they can get a step up in life and get an actual good career with a sustainable position in a sustainable job.
Oftentimes, fear is defined as fantasized experiences appearing real. We all fear something. It could be doing what's never been done, or being scared for no just cause. These fears hold us down and create a fantasized, albeit unreal, experience. If you must move ahead in life, you must stand up to your fear. If you must be successful, you must pull through the unreal experiences that fear has created in you. And trust me, you need a good dose of courage to do exactly that. With courage, there's no stopping you. How can you summon the courage to face your fears? As a woman, you're amazing and you have great capabilities. Do not let anyone tell you otherwise. How then can you maximize these great capabilities? As you'll find out in the series, Women of Courage, the women we wrote about succeeded against all odds simply by standing up for themselves. Just like them, you can make your life count too.
You can find the series Women of Courage at www.touchedbythelight.us.
Menzie Salon and Spa is now offering $25 flat irons Tuesdays and $55 relaxer, touch-up, trim, style included on Wednesdays. Full body massage for $29. Barbara's on duty. Menzie Salon and Spa is a full-service spa and salon located at 22884 Ryan at 9 Mile Road in Warren, Michigan. Call 586-510-4545.
Reached a point where you are stuck, having a sense of tiredness coming from seeing all of your dreams and visions of success get obscured with the lack of experience, guidance, and knowledge necessary for success? Learning from Women of Courage may be the most important thing you've read this year. Living a passionate life in a hectic and busy 21st century is getting increasingly harder. Women of Courage series will provide you with all the inspiration, courage, and role model you need to get inspired and take your life in your hands and start living as bravely, as passionate as you deserve. Most aspiring individuals end up missing a huge amount of opportunities due to the lack of training and tools that would allow you to overcome psychological barriers, limiting beliefs, fears, and lack of creativity that you could potentially face during your journey as a successful woman. This lack of proper guidance manifests itself in lowered performance and productivity and failure to unleash your full potential and show the world what you can truly do. If you lack the attitude and psychology, proper resources, or vision to make your dreams a reality, combined with dissatisfaction with the execution of your plans, but you remain firmly dedicated to making your ambitions a reality, you will certainly derive the most benefit from the incredible Women of Courage series. If you are serious about taking your life to a whole new level and enjoying the privileges of creativity, fearlessness, and success that all the brave women who have changed the world are equipped with, you are in the right place. Don't leave your future to chance. Get a new sense of strength, inspiration, and courage with Women of Courage series. You'll be so glad you did. Guaranteed. Achieve what you're after.
You should read Women of Courage. The book will inspire you to begin your life again. Read how females took courage to live exemplary lives, even though most were from humble backgrounds. The books teach the importance of courage in achieving the great things of life. The books motivate you to look beyond those things you think you couldn't do. The books give you the insight into your innate abilities that your fears have suppressed. There is no greater feeling than creating a new you.
You can find the series Women of Courage at www.touchedbythelight.us.
We live in a society that has created an impression that a woman is limited in what she can do. The society lets you see yourself as a weaker human who should not aspire to greater things. Most of us grew up with that mentality and thus turned out to be unambitious. Good news is there are lots of women out there just like you who have turned their lives around dramatically. There's one underlying factor common to all these women: courage. They were courageous in the face of societal intimidation. They were courageous enough to move against societal norms that were unacceptable to them. They were courageous when it mattered most, thus writing their names in the sands of time. Reading the series Women of Courage is a good place to learn about the significant role courage plays in achieving great things in life.
You can find the series Women of Courage at www.touchedbythelight.us.
Why are only a few women in history books? Why are women left out of leadership positions? Why are 21st century women struggling with the same issues that 20th century women fought against? The series Women of Courage gives answers to these questions. Millions of women all over the world are living in fear, unhappy, and unfulfilled, wishing they could do more with their lives. If you are one of these women, fearful and unhappy, take the bold step and purchase the series Women of Courage. Read and learn how other women met these challenges and succeed in living fulfilling lives. Read the series Women of Courage and learn how you can change your life forever. Women of Courage is an inspirational book that seeks to tell the stories of strong women who have persevered, even when those threatened by a woman's strength have stood in the way. It's a book for all women, a book to help more of us stand up and say, it's about time. It's a book for you. Get your copy from touchedbythelight.us.
We live in a society that has created an impression that a woman is limited in what she can do. The society lets you see yourself as a weaker human who should not aspire to greater things. Most of us grew up with that mentality and thus turned out to be unambitious. Good news is there are a lot of women out there just like you who have turned their lives around dramatically. Women like Mother Teresa, Lucy Burns, and Rosa Parks. There's one underlying factor common to all these women: courage. They were courageous in the face of societal intimidation. They were courageous enough to move against societal norms that were unacceptable to them. They were courageous when it mattered, most thus writing their standards in the sands of time. Purchase the Women of Courage series today at http://touchedbythelight.us or mail a check to P.O. Box 7267, Ann Arbor, Michigan 48107. Are you sick and tired of being you? Do you want another life, a second chance? Then it's time to change. It's time for you to find out who you are. It's time for you to stand up for yourself. It's time for you to think for yourself. It's time to rid your mind of poisonous beliefs like women should only be seen and not heard. It's time for you to learn how other women accomplished their goals. For more information regarding Women of Courage and to be among the countless women learning to manage the challenges, limitations, and rejections of life, go to https://touchedbythelight.us.
Many of these motherless children are raised without hope, without affection, and without the knowledge that there is someone who will support and comfort them when they are alone and afraid. Motherless children are the wretched of the earth. Motherless children are often truant from school. Most never graduate. Many are arrested for shoplifting. They act out in school for attention. All behaviors that lead to a life of crime. When they have problems on the school bus or in the gym, they do not have an advocate. They are oftentimes bullied or they become bullies. Many are raped by caregivers. Motherless children run away. They do not have sisters or brothers or aunts or uncles to walk the neighborhood searching for them. These runaways fall through the cracks. Some eventually surface after committing petty thefts, others do not. The ones that do not surface oftentimes try prostitution and once murdered are buried in a potter's field when they are not identified. We believe that there are or was a murderless child buried in South Carolina in 1989. She was kicked to death in a hotel room. We believe the man who committed this crime was a married man and a father. If you love your children, you should never entertain the idea of committing adultery, or if you are committing adultery, you should stop. Do not deny your child the love they need. Do not trade the lives of your children for a few moments of sexual fun. Yesterday is just that, yesterday. Today is another day, a day for change. Now, here is an excerpt from the book entitled The Wall. This was taken from Isaiah chapter 58. Keep in mind, God is talking to man in order to help man change his behavior. He does not want man to keep misbehaving, bringing about his own self-destruction. Listen to the warning and the pleading for man to change. Now, you do not have to be religious to understand and appreciate this passage from the Bible. Consider the God that is speaking as a prophet if you want. It does not have to be the ultimate God, but the idea and the advice is sound. Now, God is talking to man about fasting. This is chapter 58, Isaiah. The Lord says, "Shout as loud as you can. Tell my people Israel about their sins. They worship me every day, claiming that they are eager to know my ways and to obey my laws. They say they want me to give them just laws, and that they take pleasure in worshiping me. The people ask, why should we fast if the Lord never notices? Why should we go without food if he pays no attention? The Lord said to them, the truth is, at the same time you fast, you pursue your own interests and oppress your workers. Fasting makes you violent, and you quarrel, and you fight. Do you think this kind of fasting will make me listen to your prayers? When you fast, you make yourself suffer. You bow your heads low like a blade of grass and spread out your sackcloth and ashes to lie on. Is that what you call fasting? Do you think I will be pleased with that? The kind of fasting I want is this. Remove the chains of oppression and the yoke of injustice, and let the oppressed go free. Share your food with the hungry and open your house to the homeless. Give clothes to those who have nothing to wear. Do not refuse to help your relatives. Then my favor will shine on you like the morning sun, and your wounds shall be quickly healed. I will always be with you to save you. My presence will protect you on every side. When you pray, I will answer you. When you call me, I will respond. If you put an end to oppression, to every gesture of contempt, and to every evil word, if you give food to the hungry and satisfy those who are in need, then the darkness around you will turn to brightness of noon, and I will always guide you and satisfy your good things. I will keep you strong and well. You will be like the garden that has plenty of water, like a spring of water that never goes dry. Your people will rebuild what has long been in ruins, building again on the old foundations. You will be known as a people who rebuild the walls, who restored the ruined houses. Now God speaks about the Sabbath. The Lord says, if you treat the Sabbath as a sacred and do not pursue your own interests on that day, if you value my holy day and honor it by not traveling, working, or talking idly on that day, then you will find the joy that comes from serving me. I will make you honored all over the world, and you will enjoy the land that I gave you and your ancestor Jacob. Lord, I have spoken. Now the Lord again talks about sin. Don't think that the Lord is too weak to save you or too deaf to hear you when you call. It is because of your sin that he doesn't hear you. It is your sins that separate you from God when you try to worship him. You are guilty of lying, violence, and murder. You can go to court, but you do not have justice on your side. You depend on lies to win your case. You carry out your plan to hurt others. The evil plots you have made are deadly as the egg of a poisonous snake. Crush an egg, out comes a snake. But your plot will do you no good. They are as useless as clothing made of cobwebs. You have always planned something evil, and you can hardly wait to do it. You never hesitate to murder the innocent person. You leave ruin and destruction wherever you go, and no one is safe around you. Everything you do is unjust. You follow a crooked path, and no one who walks the path will ever be safe. Make the change that will lead to your protection for you and your children. In the book of Acts, Paul warns Julius, the Roman officer, not to board the ship and sail to Crete from Rome. Julius does not pay any attention to Paul. He puts his faith in the captain, like you put your faith in your girlfriend, or the owner of the ship, like society, and you set sail. But now I would like for you to go to the Bible and read Acts chapter 27, verses 9 through 11, 13 through 15, and 20 through 27. Take time and read what happens to a person who ignores a warning. Paul talks about what happens during that journey, how the ship is blown from wave to wave, and how sick the men were. how many days they did not see the sun or the stars, but the wind kept blowing and blowing and blowing and blowing. And finally, they just gave up hope of being saved. They were without food, they were without water, and the island of Crete was nowhere in sight. Finally, Paul says that the ship will be lost, but lives will be saved. In Luke 18:44, they will be completely destroyed, you and the people within your walls. Not a single stone will they leave in its place, because you did not recognize the time when God came to save you. A warning is just that, a warning. It is only after you act on that warning that your life is saved. Think about it. Single or married, have you put everything you have on the line for a 5-second orgasm? This is what the Lord says in the 1 Corinthians chapter 6, verses 12 to 14. Some people say, I am allowed to do anything. Yes, but not everything is good for you. The body is not to be used for sexual immorality, but to serve the Lord, and the Lord provides the body. God raised the Lord from death, and he will also raise you by using his power. You must recognize ignorance even inside yourself. As adultery is not the answer to betrayal, so is living a life of homosexuality not the answer to domestic violence. Listen to what I said. You must recognize ignorance within yourself. And adultery is not the answer to betrayal by your spouse. And living a life of homosexuality as an answer to domestic violence is also not the answer. All these states lead to violence and death. I want you to listen to what I'm reading you very carefully. This is from Murder in the Family, Volume 2, Part 1. It is entitled A Husband's Dilemma. Miss Noreen Bowl was the last woman murdered in Mansfield, Ohio in 1989. She was murdered on December 31st, 1989. She was murdered in her home the last day of the year because she was in the way. She was in the way of her husband's future. She was in the way of his happiness. 1990 was to be a new year for her husband, Dr. John Boyle Jr. He would no longer have to sneak around or provide alibis for his adulterous behavior. He wanted to live openly with his pregnant mistress. Noreen Bowl, husband, wanted to begin a new life with his new mistress. He wanted to open a new medical practice in Erie, Pennsylvania, and he did not want to pay child support or alimony. So he decided the best way out of his dilemma was to murder his wife. His plan was quite simple. He would have his mother come to his home to babysit his 2 children. He staged an argument with his wife. During the argument, he hit Noreen Bowl over the head. Once she was subdued, he suffocated her with a plastic bag. He stored his wife's body in his car. The next day, he rented a jackhammer, drove to his new home in Erie, Pennsylvania. He dug his wife's grave in the basement of his new home. He cemented the area over her grave, then drove back to Ohio and returned the jackhammer. Sometime during this period, he reported his wife missing. Supposedly, she left the home after the argument. On the surface, Dr. Boyle was safe. His wife's body was securely entombed in the basement of his new home, never to be seen again. He was ready to start his new life. On January 25, 1990, his plans were put on hold. Ohio authorities exercised a search warrant for his home in Erie, Pennsylvania. Noreen Bowl's body was found beneath the floor in the basement. Dr. John Boyle was charged with first-degree murder. After a short trial, Dr. Boyle was convicted. For the murder of his wife, Dr. Boyle was sentenced to life in prison without parole. Dr. Boyle did start a new life, although it was not the life of his choosing. In Volume 2, Part 1 of Murder in the Family, we said that if your husband is committing adultery, then your life is in danger. We repeat the statement. If your husband is committing adultery, your life and the lives of your children are in danger. We will once again say it. If your husband is committing adultery, your life is in danger. Under no circumstances are you to think he will not murder you. Dr. Boyle believed he planned sufficiently to avoid detection. Who would suspect the doctor of murdering his wife? He was a smart man. Why not murder his wife and start life anew? It was the easiest of all his options. In his mind, he had won as soon as he returned the rented jackhammer to the store. His lust for happiness cost Noreen Boyle her life. In 1999, Chief Heart Surgeon Richard W. Ayers Sr. believed he was smart and had planned sufficiently to murder his wife. In 2002, fertilizer salesman Scott Peterson believed he was smart and had planned sufficiently to murder his wife. All these men believed they could get away with murder. No one would suspect them. They had constructed a plausible alibi and left no evidence behind. When a man is committing adultery, a woman cannot assume that her husband will think that the best way out of his dilemma is to discontinue his affair or ask her for a divorce. A woman cannot make any assumption as to how her husband will solve the problem of the girlfriend versus the wife. Once a man commits adultery, his wife is now in the way of his mistress. The wife is in the way of his financial independence. The wife is in the way of his happiness. She has become a problem, and the children a liability to be managed. Countless husbands conclude every year that their wife is in the way. The husband of Kathleen Lipscomb concluded that she was in the way, and Kathleen Lipscomb lost her life. You must be watchful to ensure you do not become a woman in the way. Sometimes you must understand that getting a divorce is not necessarily an option for your husband. He may want to avoid the entanglement of a divorce, and he may want all the money. Your husband may feel that he has worked all his life, and now he is entitled to enjoy the fruits of his labor without sharing them with you. You have done little to contribute to the wealth of the family. He is the one who went to work every day. Adultery is a selfless act committed by selfless people. If the selfless person runs true to form, all decisions thereafter will be based on the theory that what is best for him or her is what is best for everyone. Adultery is now a disease prevalent throughout our society. Justification is provided for all marital transgressions. Once you learn your husband is committing adultery, you must act, and I mean act quickly. You must act to secure your future and to secure the protection of your children. We advise hiring a private detective every now and then so you will not be caught off guard and be the last person to know that your husband is committing adultery. And we advise placing the insurance proceeds out of the hands of your husband. Place them in a trust for your children. Do not let your husband be the beneficiary of any of your life insurance policies. Once you learn your husband's extracurricular activities, keep your mouth shut and make your plans. To be forewarned is to be forearmed. One thing you must understand, every day somewhere in this country, a man is plotting the murder of his wife. His plans is merely a puzzle to be worked out or worked on until a solution is found. Murder is not an isolated event. You can discern his objective regarding your safety and welfare. As you can see, sexual sin is not worth it. I can give you plenty more statistics. Do you remember Attorney Fletcher? He was committing adultery with a judge in Macomb County. She had to testify at his trial after he murdered his wife. He too thought he was too smart to be caught. He was convicted of second-degree murder. I think he's still in prison. My point is that if you believe it is okay to commit various sexual acts, how can you be alarmed at sex trafficking, and why would you spend any of your time trying to stamp this problem out? We are concentrating on sex trafficking because this is becoming a huge problem in this country. We are discussing what if there is anything we can actually do about this problem. In order to do this, I have dissected the situation. I am attempting to discuss what is involved in trying to correct any social ill. Nothing will be accomplished if this situation is not tackled correctly by people who are committed to doing the work it takes to win. Do you know how long it took the women in this country to win the right to vote? It took more than 100 years. Yes, that is correct. Those women who started the cause in the late 1800s did not live long enough to actually see a woman vote. Imagine working day in and day out without seeing victory in sight. The women who fought against drunk drivers did not win their battles easily either. They were rebuffed. Women were not respected, and women were not feared. Women were not respected by the judiciary, the police, or the prosecutors. Men still could beat their wives with impunity. It wasn't until 1992 that the first man in this country was convicted of raping his wife. Women until then had no rights to refuse or say no to sex. Their bodies were not considered their own. Women were laughed at if one mentioned marital rape. This violence is still visited upon women around the world, Singapore, India, etc. Women have experienced this form of violence for centuries and still thought that they could control women. Why shouldn't they think this way? They had control of the judiciary, the police, the state and federal government, and the church. That is correct. The church has no love for women. The church expects obedience. Women are to do as they are told. When you have some time, some spare time, go to the library and research why President Carter resigned from a large religious organization over their treatment of women. The Violence Against Women Act was not signed into law by President Clinton until September 1994, and every year since then, men in Congress have done their best to get rid of this law or water it down so it has no effect. They traditionally spend their time trying to exclude whole groups of women from the law. Native American women, Eskimos, women who are immigrants, etc. And the men give stupid reasons for their proposed exclusions. Also, I want you to go to the library and look up all the laws passed to protect women in various states and look at what parties passed these laws, especially the stalking laws. Women have been forced to commit suicide because they have been stalked. So, if you begin to fight against sex trafficking, do not think everyone will like you. In fact, they will be talking behind your back, including women. They will be snickering and laughing, saying to themselves, they will never be able to stop men from buying women. Prostitution is as old as the Bible. Ha ha ha. The women that will be laughing are the people who have never stood up for anything in their life.
Oftentimes, fear is defined as fantasized experiences appearing real. We all fear something. It could be doing what's never been done, or being scared for no just cause. These fears hold us down and create a fantasized, albeit unreal, experience. If you must move ahead in life, you must stand up to your fear. If you must be successful, you must pull through the unreal experiences that fear has created in you. And trust me, you need a good dose of courage to do exactly that. With courage, there's no stopping you. How can you summon the courage to face your fears? As a woman, you're amazing and you have great capabilities. Do not let anyone tell you otherwise. How then can you maximize these great capabilities? As you'll find out in the series Women of Courage, the women we wrote about succeeded against all odds simply by standing up for themselves. Just like them, you can make your life count too.
You can find the series Women of Courage at www.touchedbythelight.us.
Every year, thousands of books are written on how to achieve our dreams, how to live a happier life, or make a lot of money. Yet, the number of people living unhappy lives keeps going up. People living a life of uncertainty, a life of despair. What could be the problem? Were the books lying about these promises, or were people not practicing what they read? You see, the truth is that most times we know exactly what we want out of life, and we often know how to get there. So, what is the missing link? It's the courage to take that first step, to go from where we are right now to the life of freedom and fulfillment we so much desire. We must first leave our comfort zone, and it takes courage to make that move. And that is exactly where all those books failed. They tell you what you should do, but can't get you to take that first step. A wise man once said, "Without courage, you can't leave your comfort zone. If you don't leave your comfort zone, you can't grow. If you can't grow, you can't be your best. And if you can't be your best, you can't be happy."
You can find the series Women of Courage at www.touchedbythelight.us. We enjoy your listening to the Women of Courage show at WHPR every Friday from 3 to 4 p.m. and every Sunday from 8 to 9 a.m. And we support your local hairstylist. Do not forget to go to touchedbythelight.us website and download a copy of the booklet Black Women and Breast Cancer. This is very important information, and we would appreciate it if you email a copy of this booklet to 5 other women. We are trying to reach 1 million people with this booklet. Help us reach our goal. Your emailing this booklet to another woman can help save a life. Thank you. Recovering your life from foreclosure, bankruptcy, divorce, or other personal tragedies is not easy, but you must believe. You may be wounded, broken, battered, and hurt by life, but you must stand up and fight. People often say, when you're going through hell, never give up. It's easy for someone to say this, but talk is cheap. But you are in a place where every turn you take are met with a challenge or trouble, one thing after another. I'm not here to simply tell you not to give up. I understand what it means to be going through what you're going through right now. I step on a cement floor being bitten by spiders to survive. However, I'm here to tell you that change is possible. There is light at the end of the tunnel, but you must hang on and do as I tell you. Yes, change is possible. I want you to hope and to believe against even all evidence. Despair is no respecter of status. It is no respecter of age, background, gender, or color. Somewhere right now there is a child crying, a man high on drugs, a mother dancing in a club just to pay her bills. Somewhere right now out there is a person heartbroken, a loss of a dear one, a failed promise of love. Somewhere out there is a person clothed in rags, without a home, without affection, and without a family, and without love. Somewhere right now, someone out there is broken, going through a rough time, I say unto you, hold on, stand fast. You can restore and recover your life. You must believe that you are worth fighting for, regardless of what the world says. When I lost everything and had to live in my car, I had a person to forecast gloom and doom into my life. She said the only person in the world that I loved would desert me. This did not happen. When a doctor punched a hole in my heart and sewed me back up, and I bled inside my chest cavity for 7 days, I did not die. God sent me an angel to help me. When cancer visited me, I did not die. God sent me an angel to stand by me. I still have both these friends today. They have seen the best of me and the worst of me. I say unto you, believe and stand fast. Help is on the way. In closing, remember, when you read and learn with your child, the entire family benefits. Let us see how strong you are to honestly work with your child to improve the entire family. Have the courage to say to your child, I do not know, but I will find out for you. Let us see how emotionally strong you are to honestly work on a problem with your child. Saying I do not know is a courage, not a weakness. Have the courage to say I do not know, then go and ask a librarian to help you. Your child will learn his or her self-esteem and self-confidence from you. When you ask for help, it lets your child know there is no weakness in asking for help to obtain knowledge. Everyone in his or her lifetime will have to ask for help from someone. Your child will learn from your flexibility and courage. You can get more information on Women of Courage at touchedbythelight.us. Thank you for listening to Women of Courage. We can be reached at murderedvoices@gmail.com. God bless, and remember, believe in yourself and stand up. Thank you for listening to Women of Courage, and have a great day.